welcome. We are with another episode of Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and beyond. And here I'm very excited today because we are doing the first interview live, maintaining social distancing as much as we can. And at Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and beyond, what we do is that we interview people from all walks of life who are making a difference to their communities and therefore we think to the world. And today we have the pleasure to have Munhamu Murambiwa, and is the director of the National Archives of Zimbabwe. And so welcome.
Thank you very much, Antonella. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. So let me just read something about before we start with our conversation that is going to be mainly on Mitupo and Shona and Zimbabwean culture. And we don't know where this conversation is going to bring us to. So we are looking forward to that. And Ivan is a family man with strong interest in social cultural matters. He is of the Hungwe, the Chasura clan, with direct links to the Chirwa dynasty. And he has been the director of the National Archives of Zimbabwe for the last 20 years. So previously he was with the National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe as an archaeologist. And in his present position, he is responsible for building a national history collection based on written documents and oral testimonies. So once again, Ivan, thank you for coming. And let's start. So first question is with the National Archives. So you are in a way the guardian, the repository of all the written history of Zimbabwe, because we don't know much. I mean, some people I'm sure they know what happened before. And so what's the earliest document, I mean, the oldest document that you have at the archives?
Thank you very much, Antonella. Yes, in terms of originals, you are looking at documents going back to the mid-19th century, 1850s, missionary diaries. Mm-hmm. But in terms of just records, we do have records that go back to the 16th century. But these are not originals. These mm-hmm. are microfilm copies of original documents, because the originals are in Portugal. But we do have microfilm copies of all those records going back to the 16th century.
Okay, thank you for that. And so, Mitupo. Okay, singular word, I mean, the singular Mitupo is Mutupo. Probably more people are familiar with that. And one of the reasons why I invited you to talk about Mitupos, that is plural, is because in this country, I believe that we can only talk to each other at a deeper level only if we bridge the differences. So we are in a situation where Zimbabwe has got many communities, and many times we don't know each other, or we know each other up to a certain point, and we make lots of assumptions. So to know a bit more about the Shona culture, the Ndebele culture, even if they are different, can help to bridge these differences, and therefore move on. Could be just a little seed on moving on in where we're going to. Talking about Mitupo. So Mutupo and Mitupo is the Shona word. Yes. And Ndebele?
In Ndebele, Mutupo is Isibongo. I stand corrected, but my understanding is it's Isibongo. And when it's plural, it's Isibongo.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what are Mutupos? What are Mitupo?
Mitupo, I think it's a collection of identity symbols. Okay. These identity symbols could be in the form of animals or other natural objects, which a group of people rally their identity around, and they offer respect. I mean, for example, you don't eat your Mitupo, you do praises to that which is your Mitupo, and you build your own family lineage identities around that selected Mitupo, and you even take that Mitupo with you into the next world, into the spiritual world. You still have your Mitupo as a spirit.
I didn't know that this last thing. So it's a family clan. In a way, it's a family clan, and it, how can we put it? It's also knowing that you're not an island, and that you carry all this ancestral generation and with you. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Correct?
I think it confers pride and identity on you
like
as
you
an
said.
individual.
Yeah.
And it it documents a history in a way. I mean, when you go to how Mitupo, the praise poetry around Mitupo,
Yes.
it is mentioning issues around the good things. I mean, your major accomplishments, your origins. I think you all find them fused in that praise poetry.
So just give, so like the animals, for example, in the Shona tradition, generally we have.
Yes, the major ones would be, in terms of, you've got your elephant, so.
Yes.
So Samanyanga.
And that was Oliver Mutukudzi.
That was Oliver Mutukudzi, exactly. Then you've got your Shumba.
Yes. My husband is one.
Your husband is
yes.
Shumba? I didn't realize that. So is our president is Shumba.
Okay.
I think a different branch of Shumba, I think.
Yes.
Then you've got Moyo, which is also a very popular one.
Which is the heart.
Which is the heart. And in many instances associated with the heart of a cow.
Okay.
You've got the Hungwe, the bird.
That's you.
Associated with the Zimbabwe bird, and that's me. You've got the crocodile. You.
Do we have snake?
You've got yes, we've got snake.
What's the name of a snake? Nyoka.
Nyoka, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got, I mean, even wild pigs. You've got
leopard.
Leopard.
Oh, we've got this is the symbol for the Zimbabwe, the leopard.
Yeah. Then Musiama, Mofu Musiama, the eland is also a big one among the Mitupo of this country.
Okay. So we spoke about the identity. So how does it work? Because I know that it influences a lot the way the society is run at the moment. It's all this clan. There is a kinship that comes into play whenever if we are from the same Mitupo, no matter if we don't know each other, at some point we are together. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
I think it's when you look at the basic structure of Mitupo, there is actually a biological link.
Okay.
That it establishes among a community of people, and also a social link.
Right.
When you look at the biological, I think the Mitupo system, the way I understand it, in particular the way it is in Zimbabwe, is that it establishes patrilineal descent.
Yes.
So this descent according to the father's line, the male line. So if I'm Hungwe and I meet a Hungwe, even if I've never met him before,
yes,
he can only be my father, my brother, my young brother, or my son.
Yes.
Yeah. So that already, I mean, it brings it close. So if you are very young, I can treat you like my son. If you are slightly older than me, you are my brother. If you are the age of my father, I can just accord you the same respect as I would accord to my father, and in the real belief that our fathers originate from the same ancestry,
Right.
that we share the same
Mm-hmm.
genes
Yes.
in the distant past.
Mm-hmm.
So you are part of my kin,
Family. Yeah.
my family.
Yeah.
Then socially, you also have instances. These are very rare. People hardly talk about them, but it's also about you get people who adopt Mitupo.
Mm-hmm. Ah.
Yes. And unfortunately, with the time, it tends to be obliterated, I mean, that memory.
Okay.
So if we are staying in an area ruled by the Ungwe people,
Yes.
and someone from another region, I mean, they decide that maybe they are no longer comfortable staying in Buera under the Msiama people, and they are Msiama. They move to the Chirwaungwe people area. They can misrepresent themselves if they find that there are advantages in being Ungwe.
Oh.
And also in order to make sure that they are not traceable back to where they came from. So you find, I mean, people they get to understand the praise poetry around the Mitupo, and they say I'm Ungwe, and they can.
So it's pretending. It's
yeah,
not.
it's pretend.
It's
Yeah.
not something that is sorted with a chief or
It's. I'll come to that.
Ah.
The first are the pretender. I mean, someone who just come and misrepresents. Then with the time, that misrepresentation is forgotten because even their children may not even know. They will never know.
Yes.
So they are born into this new identity.
Yes.
But if we were to follow the biological linkage, they're actually not of that gene. But with the time, they become part of that gene.
Okay.
Then you also have other strangers. Maybe they came as potters from another country.
Right.
They integrate into this society and they become accepted as children of that society, and that becomes their Mitupo.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you also have, I think the last example I'll give is during the war, when the first freedom fighters entered the Dande area in the northeastern Zimbabwe. It was an area that was very strict in terms of their tradition, their culture, their religion, and it was very difficult for strangers to operate in that area. So what had to happen was that at a spiritual level, they had to be accepted as children of Dande by the spirits of the area. In other words, they had to be part of the Dande Mitupo community, dominated by Nzo, for purposes of the spirits in that area being able to assist them as their children.
Oh, wow. Okay. There's always a way.
Yes. So Mitupo is, by and large, is a genetic. You can talk of genetic traces, and you say, no, you can't intermarry within the same Mitupo because that amounts to a form of incest, interbreeding. But we also know that within your Mitupo, they may be actual biological strangers.
So is it this the reason why there are so many what do you call it, family names under the Mitupo? Because like the Samaita, there is, not the Samaita, the Shumba, there is the Samaita, there is the Tembo, how many are there?
There are many of them. You look at the Moyo, for example. You've got your Moyo Ndizo, you've got Moyo Chirandu, you have Moyo Mturikwa, Moyo Mzuguru. It's so many of these. But what may actually happen could be they are all tracing from the same Moyo. Yes. But for different reasons, they've decided to do a slight branch off from the main, and they now define themselves in terms of that. And if we look at the Moyo, it again comes to the issue of adoption.
Right.
Because one of the moyos that we have is the moyo signoro. And moyo signoro is the original moyo signoros. There are two schools of thought. One says they were actually, it's a Portuguese trader. And when he settled in this country, he opted for the moyo totem in order to integrate, because moyo was the major because of the rosy moyo ndizo.
Yes.
He opted for the moyo totem, but to distinguish himself from the moyo ndizo, who were the main rulers in greater parts of this country at that time, he then gave himself what we call the chidao, the distinguishing mark within the moyo, to say, I am moyo signor, which is moyo signor from the Portuguese.
Yeah, signor,
Yeah,
signor,
yeah.
signor.
So they are now
Mister
moyo,
from
moyo signor. That's why.
So it must have been from Portuguese.
Yeah, Portuguese trader. Yeah, in the
Portuguese
16th
trader,
century.
yes.
So you have your moyo signor, your moyo chirando. There would be an explanation as to why that particular moyo mkumbudzi. There will be reasons why, but the central thing is that they are all deriving from an original moyo.
Okay. So, doing a bit of, we're going a bit more on the side now, and then we go back to the Mitupo.
Okay.
So, for example, the Mondoro are the healer of the country, correct? How would you define the word Mondoro? Because I looked it up and so why are they all from the Shumba family? I mean,
they are actually not of the Shumba clan.
Oh, okay.
Let me correct myself.
Okay.
They are not all of the Shumba clan.
All right.
Mondoro, the simplest definition for Mondoro is a dead chief, the spirit of a dead chief. Or a dead
this
king.
Is not what I found in the
Yes.
Shona
Okay. So Mondoro is any chief, I mean a ruler of people of different totems.
Yes.
Or any king. When they die, their spirit becomes a Mondoro. Okay. And for non-chiefs, when you die and you are a man, I'm more comfortable there, your spirit becomes a Mudzimu.
Okay, yes.
You get it. So we've got Mondoro and Mudzimu. Okay. Mondoro is a higher order. It means you were ruling. Okay. Mudzimu, you were in charge of a family. Okay. So for the Mondoro, they do have a Mitupo, a Mondoro. We have their own Mitupo. Right. So within the Nzo Samanyanga people, there are Mondoro spirits of the Nzo Samanyanga. Okay. But the common feature in the northeast of all Mondoros is that when they are not residing in a living human being, in a medium, they reside in lions. Oh, that's the first time I finally am thinking right now. They live in Shumba. I've heard so many stories in the forest. So that's why we call Shumba Mondoroi, because but within that Shumba there could be a Hungwe, there could be a Moyondizo, they are different. Okay, that's okay. It's clear now. Thank you for that. I've learned something finally, because I always and so for example, again, what's the definition of Shikiro instead? So Shikiro is the medium. Spirit medium. No. Yes, it's the spirit medium. So as a Shikiro, you may be a Shikiro, a medium of a Mudzimu. Yes. Yeah. So it's for the family spirit. Yes. Or you can be a medium of some foreign spirit. Right. To you. Yes. Or you can be medium of a Mondoro. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when you are medium of a Mondoro, unfortunately, especially for me, for when we talk of a medium of a Mondoro, people tend to use these words interchangeably. The Mondoro, the medium becomes a Mondoro. Yes. You get what I mean? Yes. The medium of the Mondoro becomes also a Mondoro. Yes. So when you look at Neanda, for example, yes, Neanda was Neanda is a Mondoro. It's a spirit of the Korekore. And but it can reside in anyone. It can choose where to go. It doesn't have to go to a. Actually, it will never go to a Korekore person. It will go to another Mitupo. So the most famous of the Neanda media is Charwe in the 1890s, 1896. And she is Emuera. She is Mof.
Yes, the totem is the
the
Eland.
totem is the Eland. But the spirit was not the Eland. So she was the medium of Neanda Enzo, and I think there were other medium of Neanda before her, and there have been others after her.
Okay, so when you channel a Mondoro as a Shikiro or as a spirit medium, is your name change? Does your name change and become the one of the Mondoro you channel?
Yes, ideally you should have two identities.
Oh.
You must retain your own identity.
Okay.
The one you had before you became a medium. But when you are under possession, you become someone else. So, but with the time, you find that the identity of the spirit takes over your original identity. Yeah. So Charwe, I mean, this our famous Mbuya Neanda. We call it. I mean, you see an image, you say that's Mbuya Neanda. But you can't point Mbuya Neanda is a spirit. She was there before Charwe, and she will always be there. But very few people today would say, that's Charwe. People say that's Mbuya Neanda because the name of the spirit of the Mondoro is taken off. The identity of the Mondoro.
It's clear. It's clear. So, so this was a diversion, but for my own purposes.
No, but
I wanted clarification.
It's important because I have heard people say, so what was the Neanda Mitupo, and people confusing the Mitupo of the Mondoro with that of the medium. So I think it is an important point that you brought.
So going back to the Mitupo, so their function, in today's society, yes, we have seen the kinship, we have seen, but there is something else that is coming along, or has been lost again, or because I remember, for example, my husband, who is a bit older than you, okay, they were in Zambia during the war and so on, but they were saying that, like, calling each other the Mitupo, how do you say, calling each other by the Mitupo. It wasn't something that was very used at that time. And now people call each other with the Mitupo, by the Mitupo many times in the Shona communities.
I think what you will find that Mitupo is has been one of the most resilient aspects of the Shona culture or the Bantu culture in this country, because they've been at different periods forces efforts to undermine that part of culture, starting with the Christianity, the coming of Christianity, because the Mitupo invariably made people slide into a different form of religion, their traditional religion. So Christianity, it was in Christianity's interest to discourage, because what was considered idol worship, or worshipping of other spirits, evil spirits. So,
and all that.
But despite that, at nominal level, Christianity was very successful. You ended up by having a country where maybe 90% would identify themselves as Christians. You still find within that 90% who see themselves as Christians, they also have maintained the Mitupo identity, Mitupo tradition.
To add on this one, for example, in Japan, I know that if you ask people, what are you, a Buddhist or a Shintoist? And they tell you probably that, I mean, you find the country is like 80% Buddhist and 80% Shintoist because of the same reason. So, for example, in Japan, they've got the Shinto tradition is for all the all the happy happenings. So weddings, birth of a child, all the happy things. And then for the sad things like funeral, another thing is the Buddhist.
I think we do the same. I mean, we are Christians at certain ceremonies and we go back to our traditional religion and Mitupo identity at other religious and social fora. But you also find, besides Christianity, in the 1970s was the war, the Liberation War. And that also, in a way, put pressure on the Mitupo tradition, because the efforts to unite people under the banner of one people, one Zimbabwe, it would not have been convenient to then promote identities that seemed to separate people, that would then bring in maybe favoritism in terms of how you relate with people based on Mitupo. So to treat everyone as equal, it was convenient not to promote the Mitupo identity during the war. And also even under the socialist mantra that the country was pursuing soon after independence, Mitupo would have been looked at not very favorably. But I think what has happened is post that we have seen a lot of reawakening, I mean, the consciousness around individual, family, national identities and cultural identities. And we see, I think, that resurgence in the Mitupo identities in Zimbabwe today.
Yes. And so there is lots of good things about Mitupo, but in today's society where, I mean, we've got many different way of working, meaning or the corporate or the organizational way to work, and then the customary way to work or cultural way to work. Can Mitupo become exclusionary?
I think it has always been, especially I remember in the soon after independence, the feeling was there that Mitupo could end up promoting issues around nepotism.
Right.
That if I am looking for, if I'm a human resource manager, I then will look for Ungwe people to work under me. But I think it's a very narrow way of looking at Mitupo, because Mitupo never stand in isolation. You will find that with your Mitupo, you are related because you don't marry within the Ungwe.
Yes.
You marry elsewhere.
Yes.
So if I meet Samaita, there is already a kinship relationship that Ungwe has with Samaita, that Ungwe has with Moyosinyoro, Ungwe has with the Shumba. So they become my relations, because it doesn't mean your only relations are your brothers and sons. And so this could be uncles, this could be my aunt. I see Moyo Mzukuru, I say, my mother, So I think the issue of it becoming a source of nepotistic tendencies, I disagree. I think it's overrated.
No, the reason why I was asking is because one day we were out for lunch, and there was a Shumba, a lion, and a Mofu, an eland sitting together. And then another eland and Mofu came, and we introduced the two together. I mean, it's like the doors opened for this new Mofu who just sent in, and yet things done, which we were all looking. Excuse me, what's really happening? I
You
was
only
just
got to know
jumped,
him.
fast track, jump to queue, kind of thing. And it was just amazing to witness.
I agree, but I think that is really on the lighter side,
Okay.
where it helps break barriers and make it easy for people
Yeah.
to accept. Uh, but I am still of the view that when I look at it, I am related to lots of totems in one way or another. I mean, I find if you are Moyo Senior, I say, mzukuru wangu, mzukuru wangu, mzukuru wangu chaiye. In the same way, I see a Wongwe, I say, Chiwara, this is my brother, this is my father, this is my son. I see Nzo, I say, Sawira wangu chaiye. I mean, that within our family, our best friend was Enzo. So it's...
Yes. I know that you have spoken about adoption of Mitupo. Does exist the concept of a totemless African that you know of? Because we had our president, our previous former president, or late president, who were calling the people coming from Bara, were probably from Malawian origins, we were calling them without totem, correct?
Yes, I remember that. I think it was something that was said in the heat of the moment.
Oh, okay.
I am sure you would have been aware that Malawians actually have totems.
Yes,
people from
I know
Malawi.
that.
So to then say totemless,
Okay,
I think it was just
the
banter,
moment. Okay.
political banter. My own wife, her ancestry is from Malawi. She is of the Piri, which you can link.
Malawi,
Piri in Zimbabwe, maybe the equivalent would be your Sokon Mue.
The monkey one.
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody's got a totem.
I'm not sure everybody in Africa today has a totem, but I think at some point in Zimbabwe, I think every Bantu Zimbabwean has a totem. That's what I want.
Okay. So another thing, because I always look for similarities. Many times you hear that you need to do a ceremony when there's something not right in the family. I mean, something, or a person who is not doing well, or has got health problems or other type of problems. Generally, in a family is held a ceremony, correct? So, and there is, at some point, there is an ancestor that needs some type of closure happening. So that one to me reminds me of the 7th generation in the Bible. That not necessarily a curse, but it's like, I don't know how to say it in English. English is not my first language, but it's like what the ancestors do, then the people who are living now, they can pay the consequences because of something that hasn't found, doesn't been put at peace. What can you tell about that?
I can think of, I'll answer it at 2 levels. One, when a family is troubled by the spirit, a family member is troubled by the spirit of an ancestor of that family.
Yes.
Usually, it's it's treated as like when that person is unwell, it's benevolent illness. It's for a good reason. So I fall sick and they try different things and nothing is happening. So they can consult other spirit mediums to say, we have tried everything, but nothing is working. And the suspicion would be there is an ancestor who is trying to possess me, to come through me. And there are a number of tests that will be, and rituals that will then be proposed.
Right.
And if I successfully come out of that, I could then be a medium of a museum of the family, and the illness will be cured.
Okay.
Then you also have other instances where the spirit is actually not of an ancestor,
Okay.
but it's a spirit of someone who has a grievance with this family.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So they will possess and trouble one of you, which we call Ngozi.
Yes.
Yeah. And this spirit can cause a lot of misfortune within that particular family.
Yes.
So for it to go, it needs to be appeased.
Right.
That it could be a crime that was committed by your ancestors many years back, before your time, but through the assistance of spirit mediums, you are then able to get details of what the grievance is about and how it can be atoned for. Ceremonies, rituals are then conducted, and once that is done, the illness or the misfortunes will then disappear after that.
Okay. Yes, because I'm doing a training in family constellations, and actually in many issues we need to look back the 7th generation, and at some point you always find that one is out. The order of love, we call it the order of love, needs to be re-established, and it's beautiful when that happens, because it's like all this dense energy which has been hovering for a long time, it kinds of melt down and it flows again. So I think that for today, this is just an overview. We just scratched the surface, 30 minutes or so, half an hour or so, just against the thousands of years of history. And I would like to close also by saying, I want to read this quote. I don't know, it's anonymous at the moment. It's honor your roots and honor your branches and live and lives in order to go to your core. Transform your reality, making peace with who you really are. And by doing that, also knowing that you're not alone and that there is so many people that we can be thankful for being alive today, can make a big difference. So before we close, I want to also to say thank you to the Mbira Center who is hosting, that is hosting us in this beautiful space full of culture. And I want to thank you, Ivan, for being with us, Ivan Murambiwa, for being with us. I really appreciate. And if we can bridge a few differences, I've done my job for today.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Maita Samaita.
Okay, thank you to everybody. Please like our channel, share this talk if you find it interesting, and subscribe, and to the next. Thank you once again.